One of the companies impacted by this new law is OpenAI. OpenAI is known for its online AI chatbot known as ChatGPT. Joining us now is Chan Park, OpenAI's head of U.S. public policy. Chan, thank you so much for being with us.
It's nice to be with you, Ashley.
Well, first, let's start with Senate Bill 53 here in California. I mean, how is OpenAI feeling now that it's going into effect, and do you have any concerns?
You know, we're really pleased that the bill, as it turned out, actually creates a pathway for harmonization towards federal and state government oversight. I think one of the concerns we raised was that we thought there was a particular role for states to play and a particular role for federal governments to play. And I think seeing that both the governor as well as the bill itself reflect the fact that there's a pathway to harmonization where there can be a really important role for states to play, but more importantly for national security matters, things like chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear weapons, things like that are important for our national security and global competitiveness, that there's a pathway for harmonization there.
I mean, on that harmonization, for those that have concerns about this general patchwork of state laws trying to regulate AI, do you see SB 53 really actually guiding federal policy on this, just given the politics right now in this country?
I think it's a good example for how we can have a bill that actually does create that pathway. I think what we're worried about, along with some other folks and companies and industry players out there, is that there's going to be this disparate patchwork of state laws, like you mentioned, and that there really wouldn't be an opportunity for there to be some harmonization and consistency so that you aren't dealing with 50 or more different laws out there. So I think the fact that SB 53 does reflect that there's that opening, that pathway for that harmonization is really an important step forward.
Generally, in this regulation discussion with AI, I mean, what role does OpenAI think the federal government should play in all of this? Should it take larger steps than it has?
I mean, I think the federal government has always played an important role, certainly in the development of the science here and the standards. We were one of the first companies in the world, frankly, to sign on and agree with the Center for AI Standards and Innovation, now called the CAISY, at the federal government, to work with them to try and develop these standards, to work on safety testing. I think the federal government has real expertise when it comes to matters of national security that would require classified information or really high-level technical expertise that you can centralize at the federal government level. And so I think that's one of the reasons why we still do believe that the federal government can and should be leading in this space.
Chan, bringing it back to SB 53, what is OpenAI doing to prevent catastrophe risks that you can share, that I guess you'll have to share with the state eventually?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked the question. I really appreciate kind of the ways in which we have led in this space, or rather, I'm proud of the way we've led in this space. Preventing catastrophic risks is really central to how we design or test or deploy our systems. It's really fundamental to who we are as OpenAI and what we've really been doing for a number of years. We were the first in the industry to really develop and publish a preparedness framework. We were pioneering in the ways we published and developed our model cards, explaining the technology, explaining the safeguards we put in place. We do red teaming on new releases of models, where we try to uncover potential risks related to cyber or nuclear, chemical, biological uses, and we make that all transparent and available for people to review and test and to examine. And so I think we're really proud of that work. I think it's a testament to the really hard work that a lot of the researchers and engineers at OpenAI have done for a number of years. And so it's really, in some ways, gratifying to see not just SB 53, but laws around the country and the world start to model some of that industry-leading work.
All right. Chan Park, we really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashley.